I never imagined my day would change when a broken millionaire offered to wait for me. I will never forget that moment. The cafe was dimly lit, with the clean scent of roasted coffee beans filling the air. Raindrops pattered against the window, each drop like a tiny heartbeat echoing my own. I was sitting alone, nursing my lukewarm cup, staring blankly at the worn wood table in front of me. My heart was heavy, an anchor pulling me deeper into despair. I had just lost my job, and the weight of uncertainty pressed against my chest, making it hard to breathe. Then he walked in. Despair hung around him like a cloak, yet there was a flicker of strength in his eyes. He was older, ruggedly handsome, with a stubbled jaw and eyes that seemed to hold entire oceans of hurt. I had heard whispers around town the millionaire who lost everything, the one whose name had once sparkled in the glossy pages of magazines. Now, here he was, an ordinary man among us. As he approached, my heart raced. Would he ignore me? Would he look right through me, like everyone else? But to my shock, he smiled. It was a small, broken smile, but it lit up his face. Mind if I join you? His voice was rich, warm despite the chill of the air. I nodded, caught off guard. The cafe buzzed with life, but in that moment, it felt like we were in our own bubble, suspended in an unknown world filled with raw emotions. That he sat down, and I could see it in the way he moved. His hands trembled slightly, betraying the vulnerability hidden behind his composed facade. My name is Alex, he said. There was a hesitation in his voice, almost as if he was unsure of how to connect with someone like me. I've been waiting for someone who understands. I blinked, confusion mingling with curiosity. Waiting? For someone like me? I was just a waitress with rent due and bills piling up. But as he spoke, the words flowed out in a painful stream, filled with loss and sacrifice. Stories of broken dreams and shattered trust washed over me, drawing me into his world. I could feel his anguish, the silent battles he fought every day, and my heart ached for him. Sometimes, when you lose everything, it's hard to know how to start over, he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. My heart raced, my palms sweating. This was a man who didn't just wear his scars on his sleeve, they were etched across his face. I could see the weight of his past pressing down on him, the overwhelming need to find solace but not knowing where to seek it. Just as he was about to speak again, a loud crash startled us. A barista dropped a tray, coffee and porcelain shattering onto the floor. The sudden noise shattered the fragile moment we were sharing. I jumped, my heart in my throat. The other patrons glanced over, some whispering, their eyes filled with judgment. I wanted to scream at them to mind their own business. Alex turned to me, his expression grave. I didn't mean to drag you into my chaos. I could feel his shame swirling around us like thick fog. But I need someone to understand. Will you wait for me? His eyes bore into mine, searching for a connection, a lifeline. I shivered at the intensity of his gaze, the desperation in his voice. Wait? For what? I stammered, my heart pounding hard against my ribs. What was happening? Who was this man offering me something I wasn't sure I wanted or deserved? Before I could reply, he reached for my hand, his grip firm yet trembling. Just trust me, he urged, a mixture of hope and fear dancing in his eyes. I felt the warmth of his hand wrapping around mine. A wave of electric sensation surged between us, igniting a spark of something I had never expected to feel in such a dismal moment. The cafe faded away, and all that mattered was the uncertainty drowning us both. And then it hit me. The millions, the loss, it all tangled together like smoke in the air. Why me? I was a nobody. The question hung heavy between us, chilled the air. I searched his eyes, desperate for answers, but found only more questions swirling in the depths. Would I really wait for him? Did I even want to? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain continued to dance against the cafe window, each droplet a reminder of the world outside. Moments stretched between us, fraught with unsaid words and tangled emotions. As I sat there, hand in hand with a man I barely knew, I felt my uncertainties begin to twist and turn within me like a storm. The cafe was a refuge, a small island in a sea of emotional chaos, but even this haven felt fragile. I could see the lines of worry etched across his face, his shoulders tense with the weight of what he had lost. "I know it's strange," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I believe we could help each other." I flinched at the suggestion. Help each other? My world felt like it was collapsing under the pressure of unpaid bills and shattered dreams, while he wore the weight of past failures like an unshakable shadow. What could I possibly offer him? Just as the silence settled between us like a heavy blanket, the barista approached, her eyes gleaming with kindness. "Can I get you both something? On the house?" she asked, biting her lip as she eyed our entwined hands. The warmth of her gesture pierced through the chaos. It felt like a small light in a dark room. I nodded appreciatively, grateful for the brief distraction, and ordered a slice of lemon cake to share. When the cake arrived moments later, the barista caught my gaze and whispered, "You're not alone, you know. Sometimes it just takes a little time for the pieces to fall back into place." Her understanding smile offered me a flicker of hope, gentle and profound all at once. I managed a weak smile in return, thankful for her quiet support. I took a bite of the cake. Alex watched me intently, his eyes softening for a brief moment as a smile touched his lips. It was a small victory, but it broke the tension just enough for me to draw in a shaky breath. "You're a good person," he said softly, almost as if he were offering a compliment to himself as much as to me. "I want to believe that there's something beautiful waiting for us both beyond this darkness." The idea of beauty felt like a distant dream, but something in his voice sparked a glimmer of yearning in my heart. It scared me, the way hope stirred beneath the heaviness of despair. I could feel him reaching out through his own pain, trying to find the light in the dark. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. "That's a big promise, Alex," I replied cautiously, my voice trembling as I tested the waters. "What if the darkness wins?" He shook his head, a determined glint in his eyes. "We can't let it. I won't let it." He paused, as if searching for the right words. "I need to do something to reclaim my life, to find where I belong again." "I'm just a waitress," I retorted, melancholy creeping into my voice. "What can I do?" The intensity of his gaze bore into me. In that moment, the cafe and its patrons faded into oblivion. "You're everything," he said quietly. "You think I came here randomly? Something drew me to this place, to you. I need someone who can see past the wounds and remind me that I'm more than just the weight I carry." His sincerity wrapped around me like a warm blanket, and I wanted to believe him. But as quickly as that warmth enveloped me, the reality of my life came crashing back in. Anxiety gnawed at my insides as I remembered the eviction notice pinned to my fridge, the creditor's calls that had become a daily ritual. Just then, my phone buzzed on the table, severing the moment. I glanced at the screen and felt the breath hitch in my throat. It was a message from my landlord with an ultimatum. I stared at it, my heart racing as the weight of impending reality crashed down again, suffocating hope. "I need to go," I blurted, panic clawing at me. Before I could retreat into my spiraling thoughts, Alex squeezed my hand tightly, his grip grounding me momentarily. "Please," he urged, his voice steady. "Just give me one more chance. We can face this together." A part of me wanted to surrender, to lean on him and ignore the repercussions waiting outside those cafe doors. Yet, I felt the storm within me rising, the need to protect myself from further hurt battling against the flicker of trust one had begun to feel for him. "What happens if I break?" I whispered, the vulnerability in my voice echoing across the table. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, the doors swung open, releasing a gust of cold air into the warm cafe. A woman stepped inside, her silhouette strikingly familiar. She shook off the rain, and as the light caught her features, my stomach dropped. It was Rachel, my best friend from college, the one person I had lost touch with after everything spiraled out of control in my life. "Leah?" she exclaimed, her eyes widening with shock as she approached our table. The surprise and concern washed over her face, making me realize just how small the world really is, intertwining all our stories in unexpected ways. But before I could greet her or explain my current situation, Rachel's gaze fell to our hands, intertwined on the table. The silence that followed felt loaded, thick with unasked questions and unfamiliar tension. I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind as she searched for an explanation. Suddenly, all at once, I realized that this was not just about Alex and me anymore. I was on the precipice of something far greater, and it terrified me. As Rachel's presence sent ripples of uncertainty through me, I knew one thing. Choices had to be made, and my heart raced as I feared what lay ahead. The cafe felt too small, too intimate with Rachel's sudden presence, as if the universe had conspired to magnify my vulnerabilities. I could feel the walls closing in, her eyes darting between me and Alex, a silent interrogation happening in the space between us. The tension hung like the heavy rain outside, pressing down on my shoulders as I tried to swallow the words that begged to spill out. "Rachel," I finally muttered, hoping to anchor myself amidst the tide of emotions. "What are you doing here?" "Two just got back to the city," she stammered, her voice a mixture of joy and surprise. "I saw your old cafe on Google Maps and thought I'd stop in. I didn't expect to see you here like this." Her gaze flickered to our joined hands again, confusion knitting her brow. "That I can explain," I blurted, my heart racing not just from the sudden reunion, but from the vulnerability it sparked. Yet, the words caught in my throat, battling with the urge to say nothing, to hide in the safety of ambiguity as I had for so long. "What's going on, Leah?" Rachel pressed, her concern genuine. "You look overwhelmed. Are you okay?" Before I could answer, Alex stepped in, squeezing my hand a little tighter. "I think we're both trying to figure that out," he said calmly, his voice a steadying force amidst my whirlwind. We found each other in kind of a complicated moment. Rachel raised an eyebrow, letting the words hang in the air, feeling their implications. It was as if she was evaluating the puzzle pieces, searching for a way to fit them together. "Complicated how? Is everything all right?" she asked, keen awareness evident in her tone. "Everything as I started," but the truth pressed against my lips, desperate for release. Instead, I opted for a distraction. "It's just been rough, Rach. I'm figuring it out." "Rough doesn't even begin to cover it," she said, her expression shifting to a focus that pulled me in. "Why didn't you tell me? I thought we would always be there for each other." Her disappointment hit me like a cold wave, a stark reminder of how the walls I built isolated me from the people who genuinely cared. "I didn't want to worry you. You've got your life, your career. I didn't want to drag you into my mess." "But I'm here, aren't I?" she interjected, the edge of panic creeping into her voice. "You shouldn't have gone through this alone. You have no idea how long I've wanted to reach out to check in, especially after your family situation." The mention of my family sent a fresh wave of anguish crashing over me, mingling with guilt. My father's illness, my mother's silence, they still lingered like shadows in my life, ghostly reminders of what I had lost. "I know. I thought I could manage on my own." Rachel's expression softened, but the urgency remained in her tone. "Leah, let me help you. Let us help you. You don't need to face all of this alone." For a moment, I wanted nothing more than to crumble into her arms, to be enveloped in the warmth of friendship that I had missed so deeply. But the sight of Alex, his deep brown eyes holding a mixture of understanding and trepidation, anchored me back to the present. I couldn't allow myself to break down. There were still too many uncertainties swirling around. "Can we talk?" I asked Rachel, my voice steadying as I gestured toward the quieter corner of the cafe. My heart raced not just at the thought of revisiting painful memories, but also at the prospect of exposing my vulnerabilities to someone who had once been my rock. "Of course," she replied, her concern morphing into determination. As we rose from the table, I felt Alex's hand slip away, a sudden absence that struck me like a bolt of electricity. As we stepped away, I felt a mixture of fear and hope. Maybe grounding myself in my past could help me face the present. Maybe Rachel could remind me of the light I once carried before it dimmed into shadows. We settled into a nook under the soft glow of cafe lights, the din of conversations encompassing us like a cocoon, blocking out the world for just a few moments. "So, tell me everything," she urged gently, her voice low, inviting me to share my turmoil. "I'm scared, Rach," I admitted, feeling the words rush forth. "Things are really hard right now." Before I could dive deeper, a shadow passed by the corner of my eye, and I instinctively turned to see Alex watching us from his table, his face unreadable. The fleeting connection between us felt stretched thin, as if it were vulnerable to snapping at any moment. Leah, Rachel's voice brought me back as her eyes widened in shock. You look different. Have you? The cafe door swung open again, and in strode someone else entirely unexpected. A man, handsome and imposing, with an air of authority that drew attention. I didn't recognize him at first. It was only when he approached our corner, a daunting figure, that I realized it was Martin, the wealthy businessman my family had tried desperately to impress in the past. What are you doing here? He questioned sharply, eyes landing on me like an accusation. My heart raced with fear and confusion, memories of my parents' failed ventures surfacing uninvited. What do you want? Your family, he said, voice low. They owe me. I don't take kindly to being forgotten. Each word he delivered felt like a slap, reconnecting me with the burdens I'd hoped to escape. In that instant, everything inside me froze. I didn't just feel trapped between my past and present. I was caught in a cyclone of fear, trapped in a storm with nowhere to turn. What do you mean? I managed to whisper, feeling Rachel's hand tighten over mine, a fragile lifeline amidst the chaos burgeoning around me. The gravity of a new reality descended upon me, and as I looked at Alex, the concern etched on his face mirrored my own growing dread. I was on the cusp of losing even more than I had thought, and the storm of my life raged on, threatening to sweep me away once again. The cafe's ambience shifted, the world outside fading into a distant hum. My heart raced, thrumming against my ribcage as I processed Martin's words. His presence was like a heavy anchor weighing down the small sliver of hope I had managed to grasp in my fleeting conversation with Rachel. What do you mean? Oh, you? I tried to regain control over my voice, but it wavered. Martin stepped closer, his calculated smile never quite reaching his eyes. Your family made promises, Leah. Promises that were never kept. It's time to settle the debts. I felt Rachel stiffen beside me, her protective instinct bubbling up like molten lava igniting. You can't just come in here and stay out of this, he snapped, turning his full attention back to me. You want to play the victim, but it's time you face the consequences of your family's choices. He was right. In a way, my family's choices had shaped the trajectory of my life more than I realized. But the pain of it, the suffocating weight of unfulfilled ambitions and dashed hopes, had stung for so long that facing him felt like standing against a tidal wave. Please, leave me alone, I managed to say, desperation lacing my words. I have nothing to do with what they did. Not yet, you don't. Martin's voice was calm, unnerving against the backdrop of my chaotic thoughts. But you will soon enough. A flash of anger ignited within me, momentarily overshadowing my fear. I won't let you intimidate me anymore. Whatever my parents did, it's not my responsibility. The words hung icily in the air, challenging him as if I were flinging a gauntlet down. Yet beneath that bravado, my heart was whimpering, reminding me of everything I had tried to leave behind. For a fraction of a second, a flicker of doubt passed over his face, replaced quickly by a smirk. We'll see. I'm not leaving this city until our business is settled, Leah. I suggest you prepare for the inevitable. With that, he turned on his heel, striding away with the same confidence he had exuded upon entering, leaving an oppressive silence in his wake. The cafe's warmth turned stifling, the sound of chatter fading into a distanced murmur as the weight of his threat pressed against my chest. I turned to Rachel, seeking comfort, but all I saw reflected in her eyes was shared horror. What just happened? She breathed, her voice trembling. As I searched for the words to explain the undercurrents of my family's past, a tear slipped down my cheek. This could ruin everything, Ratch. It already ruined my family, and now it's here to ruin me. With each revelation, the shambles of my life came crashing down, the pieces scattering like broken glass across an unforgiving surface. I was back at the start, confronted by a reality I wished to escape. Instead of solace, the world offered me monsters masquerading as shadows from my past. Rachel leaned in, her presence a balm amidst the turmoil. You don't have to face this alone, she whispered, her eyes filled with determination. You have me. We can figure it out together. At that moment, I clung to her words like a lifeline. What do we do? The question hung heavy, laced with the anxiety swirling within me. and I watched as she contemplated the remnants of my chaos. I don't know yet, she admitted, biting her lip. But let's go through your family's options. We can talk to someone, a lawyer or no. My voice was firm, cutting through the fog of uncertainty. My parents' failures are mine to handle now. I can't drag you into this. Leah, she stressed, you're not dragging me into anything. Say the word, and it'll be right beside you. I promised that. I nodded slowly, acknowledging her offer, yet feeling the weight of the decision suffocating me. I was on a precipice, yet the ground beneath me felt more uncertain than ever. Alex remained a few paces away, a silent observer caught in the anxiety of my unraveling. Our connection had started as a source of comfort, but now it felt like a tangle of emotions chasing each other in circles. As I glanced at him, the flicker of something unidentifiable passed between USA, shared understanding of the struggles ahead, and suddenly, insecurities washed over me. What if things take a turn for the worse? I whispered, too afraid to let the question take flight. Then we adapt, he replied softly, just like we always have. Together, we're stronger than any storm. The sincerity in his voice offered a glimmer of solace, sending warm ripples of hope through my very core. Yet that glimmer felt fleeting against the looming storm of Martin's threat. I had to make a choice. Cito confide in them, despite the fear of how deeply I'd have to delve into my past. As I opened my mouth to voice my decision, the cafe door swung open once more, and a rush of chilled air poured in, promptly cutting through the thick tension. In strode a woman I had never expected to see, the same woman who had stood beside my father in business meetings, the wife of one of his partners. Leah, she called, her voice slicing through the chaos, drawing not just my attention but everyone else's. We need to talk. It's about your family. My heart dropped into my stomach, an icy expansion within me. I glanced at Rachel, fear and uncertainty mirrored in her eyes, while Alex's expression hardened, transitionally transforming from concern to a readiness to shield me. Not here, I said firmly, shaking my head, yet I knew I had to face whatever awaited me, the calm before yet another storm. Her gaze hardened, and she stepped closer, lowering her voice. This is urgent. Your family's name and legacy are on the line more than you understand. We can help. Panic enveloped me, the stakes rising rapidly. The tides of my life had shifted beyond any sense of control. I stood at another crossroads, with every faint glimmer of hope overshadowed by the encroaching shadows, not sure which path would lead to safety and which would drive me deeper into despair. The moment felt surreal, as if someone had pressed pause on the world around us. The murmur of the cafe buzzed distantly, while the urgency in the woman's eyes pinned me in place. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. Who are you? I could barely manage the words, the tremor derailing my attempt at composure. She took a step closer, lowering her voice further, her demeanor shifting from authoritative to almost conspiratorial. Sophia Morrison. My husband was your father's business partner. We need to talk about Martin. The name sent a chill up my spine, more potent than the frigid air still swirling in from outside. My head swam with disbelief. What does he have to do with this? They were close. You could have warned us. Perhaps my anger was misplaced, but it bubbled forth, tinged with the desperation of years spent in the shadow of my family's failures. Her eyes softened, and I saw a flicker of empathy buried in her guarded demeanor. I tried, Leah. I know your father's intentions were never as straightforward as they seemed. When they failed, they tried to bury the truth, but Martin knows everything. The weight of her words pressed down on me, reassembling a puzzle I had once longed to ignore. So what do you want? I whispered, although I already feared the answer. Her gaze traveled to Rachel and Alex, assessing them as if calculating their value in the unfolding drama. We need to unite against him. Martin is preparing to leverage your family's past to engineer a hostile takeover of what remains of your father's business unless we can find a way to counter him. The air thickened, and the warmth of Rachel's shoulder against mine felt desperately insufficient as I was pulled further into this nightmare. And how do you suggest we do that? I asked, fighting to keep my voice from trembling, by uncovering the truths he wants hidden. You have to understand, Leah, this isn't just about your family's debt. It's about power, and Martin is ruthless. He will not stop until he's claimed what he believes is rightfully his. I could see the shadows dance in her eyes, the echoes of lost friendships and messy business dealings swirling within the words she uttered. It all felt far too grand a level of conflict I had never before considered in my wildest imaginings. All of a sudden, I felt smaller, encased within a web of things that were far bigger than myself. I glanced at Rachel, who met my gaze with unfiltered determination. "If we're in this together, then we're not backing down," she declared, her tone unwavering. Alex's hand found mine, squeezing gently, and for a fleeting moment, that warmth chased away some of the icy fear creeping back in. But then, reality crashed down once more, sending me spiraling back into uncertainty. "And what will it cost us?" I asked, the words slipping out rashly. Sophia shifted, her eyes sharpening as if she were weighing her next move. "It may cost you more than you realize," she replied guardedly. "But it will cost Martin everything if you allow us to help. We will need to act quickly as works are already underway." As her words settled, a surge of resentment built within me. Why now? I couldn't help but challenge her, the bitterness tasting sour on my tongue. Why show up out of the blue when it's become too late? "Better late than never," she said quietly, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a reflection of my own childhood lessons in her expression. A reminder that allies often appeared in unexpected forms, even when the past included betrayal. Before I could respond, Martin's name came to life again, a shroud lurking over my heart. "So I'm supposed to trust you?" I challenged, my voice barely above a whisper, fear edging its way into my resolve. "You don't have to trust me," she said. "But you must act. Martin won't wait. Not when there's leverage to be gained." With that ultimatum hanging in the air, I felt time stretch infinitely. The cafe began to thrum and pulse around us, the laughter gaining edges of mockery that sliced through my racing thoughts. "What will it be, Leah?" Sophia's question echoed. "Are you willing to fight for what's left of your family's legacy?" A jolt of defiance surged inside me. "I have nothing left to lose," I said finally, and immediately felt a weight shift, freeing a part of me that had been shackled by hopelessness. Sophia's expression softened. She nodded, as though she expected nothing less. "Then let's chart a path forward. But stay vigilant, because Martin won't be the only one watching your every move." As she began laying out plans, my mind was elsewhere, racing ahead to the repercussions. With each plan discussed, hope danced tantalizingly close, but it was shadowed by the ghosts of uncertainty. It was in this flurry of decisions that a phone buzzed harshly against the table, its vibration merciless. I reached for it instinctively, glancing down to see a message from an unknown number. "I know where you are. Don't think you can run from the past. They'll be watching you, Leah." I felt my breath hitch, horror curling in the pit of my stomach. How deep did Martin's reach extend? The sense of urgency pumped through my veins like a fever intended to draw me back toward the abyss. Rachel's concerned eyes found mine, and Alex's grip tightened around my hand. But I was already spiraling into the fray of impending dread. "Get ready," I murmured, my voice barely penetrating the growing clamor around us. "I think we might have underestimated how far this goes." The cafe's familiar murmur faded as a sense of frenzy enveloped me. Panic clawed at my insides as I replayed the chilling message, its implications wrapping around my thoughts like a vice. "I know where you are. Don't think you can run from the past. They'll be watching you, Leah." The words felt like chains, binding me to a fate I had tried so hard to escape. Sophia and Rachel exchanged concerned glances. "What is it?" Sophia asked, her voice a mix of urgency and curiosity. "Leah," my heart thudded painfully against my ribs. "It's a message," I breathed, shaking as I held the phone out, the screen lighting up my trembling hands. "From an unknown number. It's someone knows him here. What does it say?" Rachel's voice was steady, but I could hear the edge of concern beneath her calm facade, that I swallowed hard and repeated the message, each word punctuating the rising tide of dread within me. As I spoke, I felt the cafe's atmosphere shift, an electric current swelling with unspoken fears. My quest to escape my family's shadows was suddenly overshadowed by someone who not only knew my name, but also seemed poised to disrupt everything. Sophia's brow furrowed, her expression flaring with protectiveness. "You need to move." Now that I shook my head, fighting against the whirlpool of thoughts. But the meeting I trailed off, uncertain if I could proceed under the looming threat, the stakes rising higher than ever. "Forget the meeting for now," Alex urged, his hand still gripping mine. "What if this martini's already here? What if they come after you right now? Panic flared in my chest, mixing with confusion at his words. So what, we just leave? We call the police. We make a safe plan, Rachel suggested assertively. But there was a quiver beneath her confidence, a flicker of dread that mirrored my OWNO police. Not yet, Sophia intervened, her voice firm. We can't show weakness. The moment you do, you give them power over you. We need to act together. Her determination offered a thread of comfort amidst my spiraling thoughts. But how? How can we fight back when I don't even know who we're truly up against? I could feel my emotions bubbling over, the worry I tried to shove deep inside clawing its way to the surface, by uncovering whatever Martin and his allies have been hiding. Sophia replied, her voice low but insistent. And we'll start by looking back at your father's records. The past holds the keys to your future. Just as hope began to spark in the air, a shadow fell across our table. A tall figure loomed close, dark hair framing a face I recognized but didn't want to see. Martin's mouth curved into a sardonic smile as he leaned against the table, casual, as if he belonged there. Well, isn't this a cozy little gathering? My stomach turned. The way he surveyed us felt predatory, a hunter approaching its prey. I stiffened instinctively, wishing for the ground to open up and swallow me whole. What do you want? I managed, forcing the words past the tight knot in my throat. Oh, I'm just passing by, but I couldn't help but notice your little rendezvous. He gestured at our group with a mocking flourish. Quite the alliance you've formed. The tension spiked, suffocating the air around us. Why are you here, Martin? Rachel asked, her protective anger surfacing, though I could see the fear she desperately tried to mask. Relax, he said, the arrogance dripping from his tone. I just came to remind you that every action has consequences, especially when it involves my interests. Sophia leaned forward, whispering for our ears only. Don't engage with him. He's trying to provoke you. But it was too late. His presence wrapped icy fingers around my resolve, causing the panic I had kept at bay to resurface. Maybe you should worry less about my interests and more about your own, Martin. Haven't you had enough of ruining lives? The fire I wanted to ignite flickered weakly in my chest, though. But I'm just getting started, he replied, cocking his head in bemusement. You see, Leah, your father left behind more than debts. It's time you opened your eyes to the legacy he really created. With those words, he turned to leave, but not before adding, and tell your little friends to keep their distance. They wouldn't want to get caught in the crossfire of a family saga they don't understand. My heart raced at his taunting, confusion mixing with fear as we watched him stroll away, leaving behind an oppressive cloud of uncertainty. What does he mean? I whispered, oblivious to the cafe patrons and their stoic glares. What happened to my father after? But my voice wasn't loud enough to quell the darkness that was already wrapping itself around me, beckoning me to dive deeper into the mystery Martin had just hinted at. Sophia's resolve returned, threading a sense of urgency through her words. We need to find out exactly what Martin is referring to. Every thread tangled with the past is more relevant than we realize, and magic lies and secrets waiting to be unveiled. But before any of us could formulate a plan, the door of the cafe swung open violently, a gust of cold air slicing through the warmth as a familiar face stepped in alongside a woman shrouded in intrigue. As I caught sight of them, my breath caught once and a shard of recognition pierced my heart, while clarity dawned. The new arrival bore the weight of 1,000 unspoken secrets. It was Leon, a name I hadn't uttered in years. Behind him, a woman with piercing eyes met mine, and time seemed to pause. We need to talk, Leah, she announced, her composure serene yet commanding. Everything is about to change. My heart raced anew. What truth did they come bearing? The weight of my past loomed larger as I searched their faces for answers, dread and anticipation intertwining in a vicious dance. The cafe's hum faded, replaced by the palpable weight of unspoken words. As Leon approached, his presence felt like the gust of wind that precedes a tempest. The world around me blurred, and all I could see were the two figures: the man I once knew, deep yet haunting, and the enigmatic woman whose eyes flickered with the light of secrets not yet shared. What are you doing here? I managed to ask, my voice strained as the past melted into the present, an unwelcome reminder of everything I thought I had left behind. Leon hesitated before speaking, as if he was battling against emotions that surged like an unforgiving tide. I had to come when I heard. About your father and Martin. I echoed, feeling dread twist into my gut once more as I looked from Leon to the woman, who remained silent in her steadfastness. Yes, he replied slowly. Martin's involvement goes deeper than you think. He's not just a nuisance. He holds the reins of a game that could destroy everything you care about. His eyes glanced between my friends and me, as if gauging what I would do next. Who is she? Sophia asked, her tone cautious yet protective. This is Alara, he said, motioning toward the woman beside him. And she knows more about your family than you do, Leah. About your father's dealings, about the debts that stretch far beyond money. Alara stepped forward, her steady gaze piercing through my confusion. I'm not here to harm you. I want to help, but you need to understand the truth first. The truth. It felt like a shooting star, beautiful yet fleeting, a glimpse of hope buried beneath layers of darkness that had engulfed my life for too long. What truth? I asked, struggling to keep the tremor out of my voice. Alara took a deep breath, then leaned closer. Your father wasn't the man you thought he was. He made choices that put you in danger. Martin is only the surface of a deeper web of betrayal and greed. She paused, her brow furrowing slightly. You've inherited more than just his debts. You've inherited the fallout of his choices. I felt a tear slip down my cheek, burning with an amalgam of rage and despair. Why is everything I love built on lies? My entire life it was all a facade. Leon reached out cautiously, his fingers brushing against my arm. You can't let this crush you, Leah. There's a way out, but we have to be strategic. We need to piece together the past so we can dismantle what lies ahead. Yet with each word, I felt the walls closing in. I can't do this, I whispered, my voice breaking. I just wanted to live my life, to forget. You must face it, Leon insisted, his voice a mixture of urgency and empathy. There's strength in navigating this together. You have people around you who care, who want to help. I drew a shaky breath. Waves of vulnerability crashed into each other inside me, pulling and tugging, telling me to retreat a place I had sworn to escape. Just as I was beginning to grasp the lifeboat Leon offered, I felt Sophia's hand squeeze mine tightly. We're with you, Leah, she said fiercely, her eyes glistening with resolute faith. All of us. Rachel nodded in agreement, her voice steady. This isn't just your fight. We'll face whatever this is together. But even as I absorbed their unwavering support, a chill ran through me, for I could still hear Martin's mocking laughter echoing in my mind. The certainty of his threat loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. Suddenly, Alara drew back, her face shifting from resolute to somber. But you must know, Leah, we're racing against time. Martin has allies, and he's already set plans in motion that could target all of you. Target us. I felt my heart race, the reality of her warning igniting my fears once more. What has he done? Before she could answer, the cafe door swung open loudly again, revealing someone none of us expected. It was my mother, her hair disheveled, panic etched across her face as she locked eyes with me. Leah, she gasped, racing towards our table. You need to come home. It's not safe. My world spun, a cacophony of emotions ranging from disbelief to raw panic flooding my senses. As she stood there breathless, frantic, I felt my heart split into two. One side wanted to protect her from this spiraling chaos. The other screamed for clarity, for resolution, for a moment free of fear. But in that instant, Alara leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. The more you uncover, the more in danger you become. You must decide whose truth you want to pursue, the one your father created or the legacy you choose to forge. And as I stood between the two realities, my mother's frightened eyes implored me to reconsider, while Leon's steely gaze urged me to fight. I was caught between the clutches of a past that refused to release its grip and a future that felt more precarious than ever. Leah, my mother whispered, desperation quivering in her voice. There's something you don't know, something I should have told you. A long time ago, the weight of her words loomed large, heavier than any debt or alliance Martin could ever establish. As my heart pounded against the walls of my ribcage, unsure of what revelation awaited me. The cafe's muted conversations dissolved into the background as my mother's eyes searched mine, filled with an urgency that pulled at my every instinct. Past grievances and forgotten love tangled together, creating a heaviness I struggled to unleash. "What is it?" I asked, my voice shaking, not wanting to frighten her further yet desperate to understand what lay ahead that I thought no. "I hoped," she began, words trembling, "that I could shield you from this, from everything our family unearthed. But it's come back around, and I can't keep you in the shadows any longer, Leah. You need to know the truth about your father and about us." The moment hung suspended, suffocating yet electric. Leon stepped closer, protective instincts flaring, while Alara remained motionless, an observer of the unfolding chaos. Sophia and Rachel exchanged glances, their faces clouded with confusion, yet fully engulfed in my turmoil. "Us," I echoed, trying to anchor myself amidst the emotional storm. "What do you mean, us?" My mother took a deep breath, her eyes glistening as the unshed tears threatened to break their dam. "Leah, it wasn't just your father making deals. I was complicit in it." Allie thought the safety of our family depended on staying silent. But silence has a way of suffocating truth until it finds a way to escape, clawing back at those who hide it. "Complicit?" I stepped back, the words stinging like a slap. "You dragged me into this world of secrets, of debts I didn't ask for. Why didn't you tell me any of this? I thought I could protect you," she whispered, a haunting sorrow painted across her features. "But now I see it's all unraveling. Martin is becoming a danger in ways I couldn't have imagined." With every word she spoke, I felt the ground beneath me shift. I turned to Leon, who stood silently, watching with the weight of shared history and understanding. This moment was not just mine. It was filled with all those I cared about, caught in the unrelenting tide of my father's choices. Sophia squeezed my hand tighter. "Leah, if you want to know the truth, we'll stand with you no matter what it is. We can't let Martin define us." But even as Sophia's loyalty soothed me, I felt the gnawing dread of uncertainty. "What can we even do?" Alara spoke up, her voice steady like a bomb. "You can confront this head-on. There is power in truth, but danger, too. Remember, Martin thrives in darkness." And just like that, the shadows around me deepened as I grabbed hold of a sliver of hope, the idea of tackling the impending storm with the people I loved at my side. Yet anticipation filled the air like static, and an unspeakable fear crept further into my heart, a fear of reaching a truth so raw, so devastating, that it could shatter me completely. "Mom, you said something about our familiars more?" I pressed, feeling desperation weave its way through my words. "Yes," she replied, the tremor in her voice echoing her inner turmoil. "Your father's choices were tied to organizations and people with power. Martin isn't just a one-man wrecking crew. He's a pawn in a larger game." Realization dawned, but it felt starved of clarity. What game? Who is behind all this? Then, like the sudden peal of thunder, the cafe door swung open again, this time with a ferocity that silenced the room. A tall man with an imposing figure stepped in, his dark coat billowing behind him like smoke. Everything about him seemed to echo danger, the look on his face a mixture of entitlement and threat. He scanned the crowded cafe before his gaze locked onto mine. "Leah." His voice roared above the din, a gravely invitation or perhaps a warning. Recognition surged through me like cold water. "You," I gasped, the name that had lingered in hushed tones finally surfacing in the open air. It was someone I had only seen in fleeting glimpses in my father's gallery of shadows, the last person I ever expected to stand before me. "Didn't expect to see you like this," he purred, a smirk curling his lips, dripping with condescension. "But I've come bearing news. It seems Martin isn't the only one who wants you, Leah. You've gotten yourself in quite the mess." I thought it prudent to extend my hand. Fear gushed, mingling with confusion and a glimmer of enticement that caught me off guard. I could sense my friends stiffen beside me, drawing strength not just from loyalty, but from shared apprehension. "Stay away from her," Leon barked, stepping forward instinctively, embodying that protective shield I desperately needed. Ignoring him, the man leaned in slightly, his voice lowering to yet another tempting whisper. "You have choices, Leah. Either allow this chaos to consume you, or harness it. Join me. You have a legacy waiting, but it requires a strong hand and a willingness to embrace the larger game." Dread cascaded through me, coupled with the burning remnants of a fragile hope. Torn between the warmth of my friends and the chilling prospect of this man's offer, I felt as though I stood at the precipice of an unfathomable chasm, with shadows clawing at my heels. My heart raced as I realized the stakes were higher than I could have ever imagined. And just as he turned to leave, leaving that palpable unease hanging in the air, he shot a last smirk over his shoulder that twisted like a knife in my gut. "You'll need to decide soon, Leah. Time isn't as generous as you might think." The cafe buzzed back to life around me. A fractured world laid itself bare, one where trust had frayed, where alliances could shift with a whisper, and where a question loomed larger than any I had faced before. Would I dare to take the plunge into this dark legacy, or would the weight of my father's sins drown me before I ever had a chance to choose my future? The door swung shut behind him, and the energy in the cafe shifted like the tide, the collective breaths of my friends mingling with an undercurrent of disbelief. I could feel their eyes on me, waiting for a reaction, and yet my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts I struggled to gather. "What just happened?" Alara finally whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence, as if daring to disturb the spiderweb of tension that had settled over our small group. That I shook my head, still processing the encounter. "I don't know who he is or what he really wants, but he knows my name and my history, and that terrifies me." The weight of his presence lingered like a storm cloud, ominous and heavy, and I was afraid it would crush everything I'd built around me. Sophia leaned in, her eyes wide with concern. "Leah, we don't have to engage with him. Whatever offer he's making doesn't require your acceptance. You're not alone in this." "But what if it does?" I blurted, feeling the sharp pang of vulnerability in my voice. "What if he's right about the legacy? What if there's power to be had?" I hated myself for voicing the thoughts that clawed at the edges of my mind, those tantalizing ideas that held the allure of control, of being more than just a pawn in someone else's game. Leon's hand found mine, grounding me with his presence. "You're not a pawn, Leah. You never were. Your choices aren't dictated by your father's past or by this man's twisted proposition. You can forge your own path." But deep down, the shadows whispered. My father's legacy wasn't just a burden. It was an inheritance that beckoned, dark and seductive. What if I could finally understand my place in this world of secrets? What if I could reclaim what had been taken from me? Before I could voice another thought, my mother reached across the table, her expression stricken with worry and earnestness. "You have to understand, darling. What this man represents is not legitimacy, it's a dangerous game. I've seen it before, it leads to ruin." Her voice trembled, echoing the fear that had taken root in my heart. "Do not let the allure cloud your judgment." "Maybe," I said, trying to thread clarity through the chaos surrounding me. "But the longer I stay in the shadows, the more vulnerable I become." A new, tense silence fell. Engulfed in uncertainty, I felt the companionship of my friends pulsating at my side, a steady reminder that though I waded deeper into my family's darkness, I wasn't entirely lost, regardless of the chaos. "We're stronger together," Rachel said, her voice unwavering, igniting flickers of warmth in my heart. "We can figure this out, Leah. Together." Just then, the door swung open again, and I felt my stomach tighten painfully. This time, a familiar figure stepped in, Andrew, my estranged cousin, and a face I hadn't expected to see anytime soon. His appearance was as unexpected as his presence was jarring, and the air thickened with unspoken tensions layered between our families. "Leah." His eyes locked onto mine, conveying a mix of sincerity and urgency. "We need to talk. It's important." "Important?" My tone was sharp, defensive. "You should know better than to barge in, Andrew. Our family has enough secrets already. I know," he said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "But I'm here for you. I heard about what happened with your father and Martin, and I had to come. There's something you need to know." I hesitated, the weight of my mother's warning ringing in my ears like a siren's call. "Like what?" I asked, my voice wary, each word laced with distrust. "About the family." His gaze flickered to my mother before returning to me, intensity shimmering in his dark eyes. "There are things we can't ignore, things that have been kept from both of us. There's a reason Martin is coming after you, and it's more personal than you know." My pulse quickened, a pulse of fear mixed with a thread of curiosity woven tightly together. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, a deepening crease forming on his brow. "I can't say everything here. But trust me, there are stakes that go beyond our family history. There's a reason this man showed up at the cafe. You're part of something larger, something Martin wants to control. And he won't stop until he gets what he needs, which may include you. The implications hung between us, heavy and suffocating. My mother's gasp escaped her lips, and Alara instinctively pulled me closer, fortifying our bond amidst new fears encroaching on our fragile circle. Leah, this is serious, Andrew pressed, urgency bubbling beneath the surface of his words. Meet me tonight. He'll explain everything, and you'll understand what we're really up against. I was torn, my heart racing at the thought of plunging deeper into a family conflict that had already threatened to swallow me whole. Yet a piece of me yearned for the clarity Andrew promised. Leah, Leon urged softly, you don't have to go alone. Whatever you decide, I stand with you. His strength anchored me, but the weight of Andrew's plea threatened to shatter the fragile equilibrium I had fought to create. I stared into Andrew's intense gaze. A flicker of hope wrestled with the tangled threads of fear intertwining around my heart, casting shadows long enough to block out the solace I had found. The stakes were rising, and with them, the potential that I might finally confront the specters of my family's past, but also the risk of losing everything I had come to cherish. Tonight, I finally whispered, my voice almost drowned out amid the bustling cafe. I'll meet you. As he nodded. A strange mix of resolve and dread washed over me. I was stepping toward the brink of something far beyond my control, and deep within, I sensed that whatever awaited me there would shift my life irreversibly, teetering on the edge of a truth I wasn't sure I was ready to face. The cafe felt like a sanctuary, filled with the warmth of shared laughter and aromatic coffee, but the atmosphere had shifted, transformed into a battleground strewn with the debris of my fragmented reality. As I left with Andrew that evening, the shadows clung to me, wrapping around my heart with an unshakable weight. We stepped into the cool night air, each step echoing the uncertainty that loomed over me like a dark cloud. Are you sure you want to do this? Andrew asked, his tone low as we walked side by side, the vibrant city around us fading into a blur. I nodded, though my heart raced at the thought of unearthing secrets long buried in the ashes of my family's history. We arrived at a quiet park, the moonlight spilling silver across the path and illuminating the weary trees that stood like sentinels guarding the night. I felt a silent invitation to delve deeper, to confront the darkness that had always lurked at the fringes of my perception. Leah, he began, his expression serious as he shifted to face me. What I'm about to tell you won't be easy, but you deserve to know. I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the rush of emotions threatening to spill over. Just tell me. I need to know what Martin wants from me and why everything is crumbling. Andrew's gaze fell, his brow furrowing as he ran a hand through his hair. Martin isn't just fighting for your family's legacy. He's fighting for control over something much larger. Your dad, he got entangled in dealings that were never meant to affect us, but they did. I swallowed hard, dread pooling in my gut. What kind of dealings? Your father trusted the wrong people, he continued, his voice steady. He thought he could manage everything, but in doing so, he put your entire family in danger. The debts are one thing, but the alliances he formed, they're what shaped the conflict we're dealing with now. Martin is part of a larger network that seeks to control the assets linked to those dealings. And you, me? I interrupted, bewildered. Why me? I was distanced from all this. It doesn't matter, he pressed. You are now a target because you are the heir. Those debts, those connections, they all trace back to you. And they're using fear to manipulate that inheritance against you. As Andrew spoke, I felt the breath leave my lungs. A surge of emotions coursed through mirage, sorrow, and a profound sense of betrayal. I was caught in a web spun by choices I never made, and the weight of my father's decisions threatened to suffocate me. The attacks on your family, what Martin does, it's all a power play, using you as leverage, Andrew continued, his voice steady yet filled with urgency. You need to prepare yourself. Your life is at stake, and you cannot let fear dictate your choices. That I turned away from him, tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. And how am I supposed to fight something so entrenched? I don't have the strength. I'm just a waitress. Stop underestimating yourself, Andrew snapped, his eyes locking onto mine with fierce determination. The moment you understand the depths of your father's choices is the moment you gain the power to reshape your own future. It's not about what he did, it's about what you are willing to do now. His words struck something deep within me. A flicker of defiance ignited amidst the despair. What do I need to do? The first step is uncovering the truth behind Martin's operations. You must gather allies and be ready to confront him, not just as the daughter of your father, but as a force to be reckoned with. Andrew implored as the moonlight caught the determination etched on his face that I inhaled sharply. He was right. I couldn't remain paralyzed by fear any longer. There was a glimmer of hope hidden within the chaos, a chance for me to break free from the shadows of my past and reclaim my narrative. Just then, my phone buzzed, startling me. I glanced down and saw a text from Rachel. "Be careful, Leah. I'm worried about you." Tears streamed down my cheeks as I realized how alone I had always thought I was in this battle. The collective love of my friends anchored me as Andrew's presence faded into unrelenting determination. "I can't ignore them," I whispered, clutching my phone. "Then don't," Andrew replied, his expression softening. "This is your journey now, Leah. You were never meant to face this alone." And within that moment, I realized the truth. I needed to unite the fragments of my life, the friends who had stood by me and those whom I had lost connection with. I was about to embark on a journey that would test not just my resolve, but the bonds I had forged and the very foundation on which my family's legacy had crumbled. "Okay then," I inhaled sharply, steeling myself against the uncertainty. "Let's do this. We'll expose Martin for who he truly is and reclaim what's rightfully mine, not just to settle debts, but to redefine my legacy once and for all." The resolve that flowed through me felt electric, surging under my skin as I took a step forward toward the uncertain future. Andrew nodded, pride glimmering in his expression, a fierce determination reflected in his eyes. "I believe in you, Leah. You're stronger than you think." With those words echoing in my mind, I allowed that flicker of hope to explode within me, illuminating the darkness as I ventured headfirst into the battle that awaited. It was more than just justice I sought. It was a chance to break free from the shadows that had haunted me for so long, to step into the light and finally embrace who I was meant to become. As the night enveloped us, I felt ready to reclaim my narrative, to embrace not just the truth but the power it could yield. Whatever storms lay ahead, I would face them with the strength of my choices, surrounded by those who believed in me. And as I whispered a silent promise to the universe, I sensed destiny waiting patiently on the edge of my resolve. This time, I'll write the ending myself.